First, we're going to put the side pieces in, and we're starting with the back. So you've got your back piece flat in front of you, and everything is brilliantly marked, of course. And all we need to do now is find the back which goes on one side and the back which goes on the other side. So I'm going to see what goes on here. That looks like the jobber, absolutely. And then on the other side, I've got this one. How do we know which one is the back? The back, of course, is the one which is longer, and we should also have snipped the front. So if you check that, you can see which one is the front and the back. So far, so good, right? Now we're going to attach one of these first. Let's have a really close look at this so we're all understanding what we're doing here. We are going to insert this piece here into this triangle, right? That's basically what we're doing. But unfortunately, we can't just sew it on like that. We actually need to sew it in properly. So what you want to do is grab the long edge here that we've got, and you've got the end here. If you just put a pin in there to begin with, like that, I'm going to put my pins so they're vertical to the seam, and then if I just flip this over and I continue on, I just line up the edge here and go straight up. I'm putting my 3 pins in here. So far, so good. Now we've marked on the other side already where our sweet spot is. It's right there. So if I go through here with my pin like this and I turn it over, I should now be hitting the center of these 2 sides, obviously, and I'm 1 centimeter off to the top. That's my seam allowance, and you can see here I am not. It's so easy to get this slightly wrong. So what I'm going to do is just lift it over to halfway, right? That's all. It's really not that difficult, but you want to make sure that it's not like pulling to one side or the other, so that it's roughly there. Okay, so I've got my pins in, got 1 pin in here as well. We're going to sew from this side here, and going from this end to that end. And we're going to repeat this process now on the other side. Let's do this again, shall we? Just in case. So we want the longer edge. You can't really go wrong. This goes into that sweet spot here. What we're going to do is pick up the end bit, pin it together, and then flip over the back piece and just pin it too. Actually, there we go. Let's see what I'm doing. Right, so we've got my pins in here. I can put 2, 1 or 3. When I turn this back over and I take my pin to just check right through that center, turn it over and look at that. That's really good. That's fine. We've got plenty there at the top, so I'm going to put this across. That was perfect. I can take this pin out. That's just going to get in the way, and we can now sew this in on both sides to that point. And we start here on the top of the sleeve and we go all the way to this point here. You want your stitch length at this sweet spot to be really, really small. So make sure it's set on 1.5 just for the corner that we're going to sew here. So let's go and sew this in. So backwards and forwards. Move your pins out if you like. And I'm coming up to a sweet spot. And as you're coming up to the top, don't forget that you now need to get your stitch length down to 1.5. There we go. Take this out now, up to that point. 1, 2, 3. Press your backwards button. Go backwards. 1, 2, 3. Do count them, it's not stupid. Turn it off. 1, 2, 3. Take it out and you've hit your sweet spot. Phew! The first one's in. Cut your threads off. Now we take out the pins and we can have a little look here. That's perfect. And now we're cutting exactly to the point to which we have just sewn. Make sure that you move away the fabric on the underside so that you don't accidentally cut into it. And then basically you cut straight up where you've got that anyway here. You know, the little triangle, you cut straight up right to that tip. And now I can move around my back piece and sew it in. Just put the ends on top of each other and pull it nice and flat, and then we can pin it. Start to pin at the top, and we're going to want to sew here just right over that point where we hit it. Get it under, and I'm going to go down to 1.5 now so I can do this side. Ooh, can't wait to get this finished. And backwards. Awesome. Just over. I can now go back to my seam allowance of 2.5. And then I can go down all the way. And now we're going to repeat the same process on our front piece that we've just done. So you want to do exactly the same that we did there. So you can see how this is going to go and sit in here, right? So we do exactly the same. We pick it up, we put the right sides together, and we are going to put a pin in here to hold it in place, and then all we have to do is flip that over. It's the same technique, we just have got a little bit more fabric now to work with. And I'm going to just pop this up here, cut my thread off, that's in the way. And now I'm going to put a pin in here as well. And I'm going to go through and see whether I hit my sweet spot, and I haven't quite hit it. I need to like move it over so I can catch it here, and then I want to just straighten this out so it's nice and flat, and I'm going to put a pin across here to do that, and I have to move my pins here as well. So make sure this is nice and flat. That's all we need to do. And there we are. Perfect. If you have a look at it now, what I've pinned here, you can see where here we're going to have the seam again, right? So I think it's becoming clearer and clearer to you how this goes together, and you get the lovely sleeve here like that, and that's where the gather is going to go, and it's so nice because it will fit so well. So we're going to sew from here up to this point. Now let's do the same on the other side, and we do exactly the same. So we make absolutely sure that we don't twist anything, because believe you me, I have made plenty of these samples and I have twisted stuff. So it's not what you want. So you put it like this where it comes up so that you can see which bit is going to go together. And I do exactly the same. I put my pins in. It doesn't really matter from which side you put them in, as long as you have got it together the right way and haven't twisted anything. Right sides together, pick it up, same over and over. Flip back what you were just holding there, and then pin it up. Put maybe just one pin in here. We're now experts, aren't we? So turn it over, sweet spot, there it is, go over, and have I hit it? Not at all, look at this, it's way over, so I can just move this along now to where I want to be, roughly in the center. There we are, and I'm just going to put a pin across here, make sure that this is all nice and straight. Super. We just check that again. Pin goes in, turn it over, super, great stuff. So I can now put my one pin the other way, take this one out so it's not in the way when we're sewing, and I'm done. Now just make sure everything lies nice and flat like this, and we're ready to sew this in the same way we did it on the back. So yeah, let's go. And I'm gonna put my needle down where I think that sweet spot is. There we go. And then I can lift my presser foot, take the pin out and go. So your stitch length is 1.5. So you're counting your stitches that you go forward. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Press your reverse, go 1, 2, 3, 4, go forward again. Right, counting the stitches is really good if you are like me, a bit older, or your sight's not the best, you just can't see it. Then counting is your trick to get that right. That actually turned out really well, so now all I have to do is snip into it. So now I do the same again, and I bravely cut into it. Make sure that you hold this over so you don't cut into it or anything. This is going to be so cute. I hope that the young lady I'm making this for is really going to love it. Anyway, you turn this over so it's nice and flat again. Always want to sew from the side where you can see what you've sewn before really well. I'm going to just fold this away a little bit. Make sure that it's nice and flat. You don't want it to be like that, right? Nice and flat. Don't be scared. Look, fits perfect. Even if you don't get it quite so perfect, as long as the points meet at the top, it's going to come out all right. And if you really find it difficult to start with the sleeve part, you can sew all these in first, the side seams, and then do that, and that'll also work. So now I've pinned that too. I'm going to stitch this in. I've done the same on the other side. So back to the sewing machine. Right. Move it out of the way, get it under. And I'm going to go down to 1.5 now so I can do this side. Awesome. Just over. I can now go back to my seam allowance of 2.5. And then I can go down all the way. Secure your stitches like that, and that's it. We're done. Oh, look at this, so cute. And I'm gonna overlock it now. So this is going to be fairly simple. We overlock one way, we overlock the other way, and then we iron it and top stitch it. So just make sure you don't, catch anything you don't want to catch. Just pop it under. And yep, just go one into the other. You can overlock across the top here as well. It needs to be overlocked. Sometimes you hit it so well. Sometimes you hit it so well you don't have to overlock across there, but in my case I didn't, so I'm just gonna do this here and now overlock down that way. I hope you've recovered from putting the side bits in and you're ready for some easy stuff now. So now we're just going to close the shoulders, and nothing could be easier than that. You just take the two ends here that will go over the shoulders and we're going to just close them. So you might want to pin it. It's not even necessary to pin this sort of stuff. You could just, you know, go to the sewing machine and sew it together. So once across there, and now we can sew the shoulders together. All we need to do is 1 centimeter seam allowance, line it up, lock in your stitches, don't forget that. My stitch length was still on 1.5, so don't forget to put that back up and stitch over. Fabulous, done. And now we can overlock what we've just done. You always want to overlock whatever is going to be seen most, so I want to make sure that the front is facing up so that I can then iron the seam towards the back and get a nice finish. Now we're going to give everything a really good press. So I'm going to start with those seams. Give this a good press here, inside and out. Oh, it's going to be so nice. I have to say that the corner that we just did was a little bit more fiddly here on this really small size, and it was way easier on my size, which is not so small. Iron that as well, so it all looks really nice. And I'm also going to iron my seam towards the back. I'm now going to top stitch all of this, and the seams should always be into the machine, and then I'm top stitching from the top. And if I've used a foot which has got a bit of a see-through thing going on, then there are plenty of lines, like my puff machine has that, and that's actually really nice. I can easily work with that. So you want to lock in your stitches again, and you want to make your stitches longer. You want to go to 3.5. Very important. When you're top stitching, it's a good idea, if you're right-handed, to have the seam going towards the left of you, away from the machine, because it's easier for you. If you're left-handed, you want to do it exactly the other way. And if you are one of these people that can do both, I can actually do both. Try one and try the other and see if that's okay for you. So keep that distance, don't look at your needle, try to be, you know, a pro, sew like a pro, my motto. There we go. And just, I mean, you can look at your needle, flick back and forth, you know, I do that too, but try to get in the habit of not making that your gauge. Your gauge is at the front here where that little plastic bit is. That's where you're looking at, because by the time the needle does it wrong, it's wrong, right? There's nothing you can do about it. So just feed it in really straight as well as you can. All the way up. Now sometimes I want to half a stitch, and mechanical machines do not do that, so let's hope I'm lucky. Yeah, I can just do that, that's okay. I wasn't so lucky on the other side there. And back down, just make sure that you do have the needle down when you turn the fabric. There we are. And down this way, lock in your stitches, and that's it. And you do the same on the other sides. We can actually move on to the facings at the top.